Hello, this is my review of the rental car that I'm driving, a 2014 Hyundai Accent. It is a 4-cylinder. I'm not sure of the horsepower because it's a rental. And I don't care that I got the plates showing because, hey, they're not mine. And the only bad thing about the New York plates is around here in central Massachusetts, there seems to be some sort of illegal activity that's stereotyped against any vehicle that has a New York plate on it. Hint. Anyway, that has nothing to do with this review, by the way. It's just one reason why I don't like the New York plates. Anyway, got a nice small vehicle here. It can seat up to 4 comfortably. As you hear, I'm using the keys to open it because I've had a rental back in the days where they didn't tell you how the alarms worked, and it didn't work the way that it was advertised in the book. So I'm not taking chances, I'm using the physical keys. Okay, we got our window controls here, and the auto down button. If you push that all the way down, the window here on the driver's side will go all the way down with a simple push. You can let go of the button. None of the other windows do that, which is a normal thing. My Fiesta's the same way. However, when it comes to raising the window, you gotta kind of keep your finger on it. You have electrical mirrors that tilt by setting the, okay, there they are, by pressing up or down for which mirror you want, and then left and right to move them left and right. And one of the things I do like is, unlike those vehicles that have the blind side monitoring systems, this has an actual blind side mirror. So you actually see what's in the blind spot instead of relying on electronics that could possibly fail you. So some people would say this is kind of a cheap thing, but this is actually a safer thing. And of course, I mean, every car has a rear view mirror that's capable of day and night. However, the swivel on this thing is very, very smooth and easily adjustable. And the only reason I bring that up is some vehicles, the ball and socket joint, as I was saying, is so tight that if you just barely have it a little off, it's a pain in the butt to try to get it exactly right. This is very easy to get. And over here we got your accessory mirrors inside your very tight quarters here for your sun visor. We have a place for your sunglasses, and no, those are not mine. I don't know whose those are. I wonder if they even cared that they forgot them. And map lights here if you need them. Very sizable glove compartment here. You just push this button in, and I didn't push it hard enough. Just falls open for you. Very nice. That's a nice touch. Now, the basic design of the cab is not pretty. I mean, I shouldn't say not pretty bad. That's poor grammar. It's actually fairly nice. Although, one thing I definitely do not like about the design is how they have the windows, to make it look aerodynamic, the windows going up like this, so they're lower here and they rise up. That makes backing up a pain in the butt. You can't see the parking lot lines at all when backing up. So that's a negative Hyundai kind of decided to ignore for beauty. Anyway, there are instances and parts of the car, got spacious room there, in which that their old past kind of haunts them a little bit. For example, I'm going to take the big example right now, is we have a gas can. A gas, this is where you put your gas, and it's got a release inside. You can't open it this way. Now the thing is, here, when I tried to fill this tank, I've had to pull on this several times to get the thing to open. I've pulled it up once, I'm gonna pull it up again, and it actually opened this time, which is good. It's got the old-fashioned screw-on cap. Some vehicles now don't even have a gas cap, and gotta make sure that shuts. Sometimes it may not if you don't push it hard enough. And it's got a nice sizable trunk. When we pull up on this lever, it opens for you. And it's got a fairly good sized trunk. And this is a rental, so shouldn't really need this. In fact, it doesn't even have the spare tire, now that I see that. Not good if you don't pick up on the extended protection plan for roadside assistance. If your provider, which is mine and has it, if your provider doesn't have it, well, that's going to be a problem. All right. Now we got the rear seats here, and yeah, this is a rental car, can you tell? Try not to sit in that garbage here. And my head is just barely touching the ceiling here. I mean, I'm only 5'7", and if my head's hitting it, those of you taller, like 6'2", 6 and higher, 6'4", as I'm gonna say, might not find it very comfortable back here. Plus, these seats are very stiff. It's digging right into my lumbar. In fact, it's starting to kind of not feel comfortable right now. A little painful. Not very good. But that could be just my build. There you got cup holders, of course. And we have here some buttons. This, when you have the lights on, you can adjust the intensity of the lights on the dashboard. Traction control is here, on or off. These two buttons do nothing. And this is your economy button. And under normal driving, I haven't really noticed much of a difference in fuel economy, but when you need that extra power when merging on the highway, shutting this off does make a big difference. And I found that I get about 45 miles, 50 miles to the gallon on the highway doing 55, 65 miles an hour. And only about 40 or so, 40, 45 or so on your two-lane highways that are like 40, 45 miles an hour, which is kind of interesting how that works. It is quite responsive, and although in the economy mode you can kind of feel the engine lurching a little bit, only because you're doing this on limited power, but that is expected. And if the shift happens a little too early, you'll get engine growling, which is, well, any smaller engine will do that. And speaking of power, it's a manual, and on the far right, if you're one of those guys that like automatics, you can put your shifter here in the semi-automatic spot. That's correct. And you just hit the plus and minus to up and down shift. There's been a few hot days. I've used the air conditioner. It works very well. And if you put this on max AC, the automatic cabin only option will turn on. Any other position with AC, this has to be selected, and you have to push this button to have AC or not. And of course you got the various ways to do that. And the radio is another downfall of this car. Now, granted, on these cheaper cars, my Fiesta, it doesn't sound all that good with the default settings. However, if you put the treble and bass all the way up and remove the mid-range, the treble and bass will take care of the mid-range for you. And my car speakers actually sound almost like a higher-end stereo. I'm not talking, you know, like a pricey one, but for a factory, it sounds like one of the better ones. This car, I cannot get that to happen. And this car, unlike many that I've had, you can't turn it on if there's absolutely no power. So you gotta put this thing into at least the 2 position, the power mode, where all the electricals turn on, or should. There it is. I just didn't turn it on enough. Got all your idiot lights there. It's got a nice looking, has a nice looking display. I'm personally not a fan of the digital fuel gauge. It's just not as accurate. That's just a personal thing. Maybe you might care, maybe not. Anyway, for 3 seconds, we'll display the radio for copyright reasons.
Out, mixing in a little Pink Floyd near the end there. Very nice. Hollywood Vampires, by the way. The next
Well, that's a little more, but wasn't really enough music playing there. Anyway, I've tried the same thing with this one to make it sound good, and no matter how I set the treble and bass, it just doesn't work. It just sounds cheap. So, when it comes to starting the car, it's not like a lot of modern day vehicles where you put it into the 3rd position. As soon as it tries to start, you can let go of the key and the computer gives it a set amount of time to try to start. And if it's successful, good. If not, try again. This one, you gotta actually hold it in long enough for it to attempt. That's kind of an old school thing. It's just something to be aware of. It's not a bad thing, because I'm going to turn it to the 3rd position now. I'm switching hands, and I'm going to just do it really quick. You heard that? That's because I didn't hold it in long enough. Hold it in long enough, it'll go, and if you keep the key in, it will disengage your, it'll disengage so you don't get that screeching, grinding thing noise that you get when you hold the key in too long, like the good old days. So, I mean, there is some electronics in there. Now, if you've listened, I purposely left a pause there and there. Very, very quiet engine. When it's warming up after it hasn't been used for a while, it may be a little bit on the loud side, and the TAC will be around 2K, but as it warms up, it gets a lot better. Fuel economy gets a lot better. So the power is not too bad with this. And you got your wipers here. Kind of weird that you gotta hit up in order to get the one-shot deal with the wipers. You know, if you don't need intermittent, you just need to use it very rarely, you just push up. There go your wipers, and that'll be it. Usually it's down, and up is when you select your low, medium, and high. That's what I've been used to. Your lights are over here, and they are very bright, and I'm going to adjust that knob that I was showing you here, so you can adjust the intensity. It's daytime, so it's really hard to see. And now we're going to shut it off. And one of the things I am not really keen of, not really fond of doing, is when you try to shut it off, oh, it works this time, of course. It'll stop at the auxiliary position, number 2, and not let your key out. So you have to actually, when it stops, push the key into the ignition and turn it some more to get it to the 1 position to shut the car completely off and pull out your key. That I'm not fond of. It took some getting used to. That's one of those things I am not very fond of. And one of the things we're looking at right now, obviously, is the steering wheel. The horn on it, they're trying to make it sound like a mid-range car. You know how it's got the high-pitched horn that doesn't have that really tinny meet economy car sound. But they kind of missed the mark because it sounds like a combination of that economy and the big horn. It just sounds tinny, but they're trying not to be. And another thing is, this is a rather thin steering wheel, so if you got bigger hands or you're a larger person, this might not be comfortable for you. Personally, I do find it a bit small, but only because I'm getting used to the fatter steering wheels a lot of cars and SUVs and what have not come with. So I got nothing against that. However, these ends right here, I think you can see how it's kind of got a sharp edge on it right here. And if you're holding it in the sort of 9 and 3 position, which is recommended with cars that have airbags, which is pretty much almost every car nowadays, that does kind of dig into your skin a little bit. And speaking of the steering wheel, the power steering is kind of hit and miss on this vehicle. Sometimes when you're making a sudden turn or trying to turn in a parking spot, suddenly your power steering seems to disappear on you or sort of show up. Not very dependable, not very poor performing, I honestly think. Under normal circumstances, you won't notice it, but like I said, especially pulling into a parking spot, you're definitely going to notice the sort of intermittent power steering. Actually, I want to show you under the hood, if I remember where that is, and there it is. I'm grabbing it weird, and you got a very easy to access fuse panel here. Ridiculously easy. I definitely say that's a good thing. I'm definitely not using the correct hands for holding the camera and putting stuff together again. Let's take a look under the hood here. You gotta find the latch thing, then pull it to the left, and there you go. Nice and toasty in here. There's your engine, there's your oil if you need it. However, it's a rental, that shouldn't be your problem. And your washer fluid over there, just in case it runs out while you're renting. That one you probably should need to know. And the battery, if you ever have to get it boosted and what have not. And this is a very small hood. I mean, very small real estate. And now, the one thing I wonder, is this one of those hoods that you gotta hold it up in the air like this and let go and have it slam shut? Or can you press it shut, like I could with my Dodge Neon? It's already latched. Yeah, that's down. That is closed. You don't have to slam this hood shut. You can just push on it and it's locked tight as it can be. And if you see that white thing, they have the Easy Pass toll system if you're going to use it, provided that your rental car provider provides it. The lights are actually pretty bright. They do some pretty good coverage. The high beams also do very well. Turn signals are very quiet, so you might not know if they're on or not if you don't, hit your turn signal hard enough to keep it locked in place. Although that's something you should that's personal driving habits, if anything. So, what do I think of this car? The radio isn't that good. As I said, it sounds like a cheap radio. And speaking of that, the reception isn't really all that great on it. Some of the weaker stations disappear where my Fiesta radio could still get them in. And the gas cap thing, you got to pull on it multiple times to actually get it to unlock. Sometimes that happens. And when you're manipulating the doors, like the locks and what have not, which I need to lock the car up. Again, I don't trust if there's an alarm system in this or not. I do it by hand. Right, you can just hear. You can just hear by playing with this. It sounds really hollow. So that's that. So overall, yeah, I'd give this car about a C. I mean, for a rental, it's not too bad. If you're a taller person, like over 6 feet tall, it might not be that comfortable for you. To actually drive and purchase, I would give it a pass. While Hyundai has really improved quite a bit, they still got a ways to go to reach up to the big three. Although if you want to go with reliability in that, you got maybe more ways to go. I'm not sure. This car's only a year old. So, yeah, I give it a C. Good enough for a rental. Maybe you're pressing your luck if you purchase one. And that's my review. George F551 saying, hope you enjoyed and have a good one.